Preserve, protect, and defend.
It's the greatest responsibility of a president to help keep Americans safe, to protect our families. Donald Trump has failed this solemn duty. Over 170,000 Americans have died in the past few months from COVID-19. Millions are infected, and there is no plan. No plan to contain the virus, no plan to make it safe for businesses to reopen, no plan to reopen schools. In this time of national crisis, Donald Trump did what he always does. He lied. He bragged. He blamed. He never led because Donald Trump is not a leader. This time it's personal. Donald Trump's ignorance and incompetence is threatening your family's safety. It's not about Republicans or Democrats. It's about protecting our families.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
He failed. He must go. On November 3rd, vote to protect your family. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The Forum, exclusively on Facebook Live, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Call in or text live 414-395-0484. Thought-provoking talk radio covering all topics from local to national and everything in between. It may not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, exclusively on Facebook Live, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Podcasts available on our website, theforum2.com. Check us out.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. Now, this is what we are faced with, and this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Good morning. Welcome to the program. Today is the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington. Today is Friday, August 28th, 2020. And so that clip from MLK was this warning, this foreshadowing, telling America what they should expect from African Americans and other allies as they descended on Washington, D.C. on that day in 1963. 250,000 some people participated in that very historic march, which was seen as a turning point in the civil rights movement. Fast forward 57 years later, and we find ourselves in a very similar situation to where the March on Washington now is just as important as it was then, maybe even more so, because we have to do it a second time. That event in 1963 was a once-in-a-lifetime type of gathering of people to show their support for a better America that is more just, that treats its citizens with the same level of dignity and respect. We have to do it again. Now, the themes are very, very similar. But the times, you'd think in modern times that it would be, a different kind of a feel to it. It's just as bad as it was. There are a number of deaths that we saw of African American men, as you saw them during the Jim Crow era at that time. The exact same thing is happening now, even though there has been some movement toward racial justice a little bit. There's been some policy, I'll put it that way. There's been some policy movement on housing equality. There's been some movement on reducing disparities, we think, with school segregation, but not really. There's been some progress on voting rights, but then the Republicans just found another loop around. Voter ID and other such things. And now we're on the heels of the Republican the ending of the Republican National Convention. I did watch Donald Trump's speech last night. I know a lot of you didn't, but you got to pay attention to everything. I know you don't want to. I know it's very painful to watch, but I'm going to use an athletic analogy. There might be a football coach who wants to lead his or her team to victory on Friday night, and they really despise the team that they're playing. That team plays dirty. Maybe it's a rival team. They really just can't stand anything about how that team plays the game, and they have that game on Friday. But remember, the coach, the players, the whole staff, they hate this team that they're playing on Friday. But what do? What do they do when it comes to that team that they hate and that they despise, that they really want to beat? They watch them. They watch that team. They watch endless hours of reel-to-reel footage of that team playing the game. You needed to watch the Republican convention. I know I went back and forth on it, but what I found is that I would just have it on in the background at my house, and I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. I'm making food, or I'm listening to you guys go back and forth on the social medias, but I have it on. And so when something particular catches my attention, of course I watched it via MSNBC, where, the commentators on MSNBC would, no, we got to stop. No, we got to fact check that last segment, that last speaker. We have to fact check. And I think the commentary that they gave helped me digest what the Republicans were attempting to communicate. And what I saw was frightening. The first night was just disgusting. The second night got a little bit worse, because it's like they have these pre-written speeches for these indoctrinated people that are not thinking for themselves, that are not looking at America as a large tent. They're looking at America through Donald Trump's eyes, and that is the consistency of the Republican convention. There's all these people, and they found some diversity. They found some people to give credibility to Donald Trump on criminal justice reform. They found some people to give credibility to Donald Trump on, he's not hard on immigrants. Look, he just did an immigration ceremony as a part of his convention. But either way, I found it necessary to watch the convention just like a coach watches film of the other team. We are going to get to some more details on our Milwaukee friends and family they've made it. Their sojourn from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C. to commemorate the march, marching 30 miles a day. These folks have endured everything from blistered feet to gunshots on their journey, and so we're going to talk about that. There's actually a pretty good article in today's Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel giving credit to those that marched for freedom and justice and equality from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C. Just a number of very positive things that are happening right now on the heels of this very historic event. But then there's this other thing that worries me. And I'm worried about a lot these days. Good morning, everybody. I'll get to good mornings in just a second. Joe Biden did not get a bump in the polls after the convention. There was no recognizable or sizable increase of people willing to say that they would support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. There was no increase. If there was any increase, it was just inside of the margin of error. The bad news with that is, if Joe Biden did not get a bump in the polls from the virtual convention, and Donald Trump does get one, we're in trouble. And when I say we're in trouble, we're in the worst kind of trouble imaginable. There's going to be a correlation here. First and foremost, Donald Trump's support in the polls is undercounted. It is, by several points. So Trump is within the margin of error. He's probably up by one or two. Whether that's battleground states or whether that's a nationwide poll with an accurate sample, he's winning this election. Now, the other correlation that worries me is that as we get closer toward November 3rd and the polls begin to tighten, that means the momentum is going one way and it's going toward Trump. If people are not completely blinded by rage from what they heard last night, if you watched it, now remember, even though we don't want to know, we don't want to listen to what the other team is saying, you got to still watch their film so you know how to defeat them. Do you know that this man had the nerve to say, so this is one of those moments where I just had the convention on in the background and I was doing other stuff. He said that he has done more for African Americans, or he's the president that has done more for African Americans since Abraham Lincoln, and he got applause. I almost fainted. And then he said that he has done more for African Americans in 3 years than Joe Biden has done in 47. I can't tell you. So the other thing is, you know how they just kind of toyed with black folks, and black people are more employed now and are doing better now under the Trump administration. They use us as like we're not even real. We're like this group of non-existent beings that just kind of get kicked around from one party to the other. It's extremely disrespectful, because what the Republicans fight over when we're not in the room is who does more for the blacks, who the blacks love more. Well, you know who the blacks love more? Other black people, which nobody ever discusses that. Donald Trump is getting the momentum. He will get a bump in the polls from his convention because we are dealing with something that we cannot apply our intellect nor our common sense to. We're trying to do that because if you apply your intellect and your common sense, and if you look at the state of the country, if you look at where we are with the coronavirus response, if you look at where we are with the economy being shot to hell, if you look at just the bleak forecast of what this country could potentially become and descend into permanently, it makes sense that you just want to vote for something different. But we're not dealing with tens of millions of people that want something different. They feel perfectly comfortable with Donald Trump using the White House, the People's House, for his convention. They are perfectly comfortable with a Secretary of State who is supposed to keep politics out of our foreign policy, speaking on behalf of Donald Trump from the embassy in Jerusalem. They're perfectly okay with that. That raises no red flags to these people. That means that the Trumpism represents something that's really foreign, right? Foreign to us, I suppose. Or maybe it's not so foreign, because you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the presidential election of 2012, except the roles are reversed. There is an Obama-like phenomenon, an affection, a deep affinity for Trump. The way we loved Obama and the way that Republicans said in 2012, well, there's no enthusiasm for Obama. He already won us a first term as a black president. Black people and others are not going to want to go out and flock and vote for Barack Obama for a second term. We knew better, didn't we? And they kept saying it over and over again. Oh, don't worry. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan are going to win because there's no enthusiasm for Barack Obama and Joe Biden for a second term. We knew what the enthusiasm was. They just couldn't understand it, nor could they interpret it. The same thing is happening with Trump. He is gaining, and he is gaining at the wrong time, because as we get closer toward the election, Donald Trump is doing better. Combine that with people's easing fears of the coronavirus, even though we should not have easing fears of the coronavirus as time goes on. People are just going to get used to it. I said a long time ago that we're just going to be okay with 30 or 40,000 people being in the hospital with coronavirus complications forever. And once we get used to that, it's no longer a successful way to change people's minds politically. There is a phenomenon, an undercurrent of support for Donald Trump that people are embarrassed to admit, like they were back in 2016. As coronavirus fears begin to ease, Donald Trump is going to rise in the polls. And there's an enthusiasm for him now that mimics the enthusiasm that existed for Barack Obama. We have to sort out what we're going to do and how we're going to coexist, because right now there really is no coexisting with folks who want to see Donald Trump out of office and those that want him to be president, not just for another 4 years, but forever. It means he'll never be held to account for his crimes. It means that everything that he said and everything that he did during his first term is now justified. And yet you can't forget about the election malpractice that is also likely to take place. Now, I do have some solutions, but we'd have to start putting together that plan to implement these solutions right away. Tom Wiesel, good morning. Tom, Rodney Jackson, good morning. My brother, Vanessa Garrett, good Friday morning, Sherwin and everyone. Good morning to you too. Mary Braun, good morning all. TGIF. Susie Roundy Schmidt, good morning all. Star Xavier Mom, good morning and happy Friday. Cassandra D says good morning. Do Fridays even matter anymore? Do people, are you guys back to work on a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 schedule? Because my Fridays are a lot like my Tuesdays, right? The only thing different is between my Fridays and my Tuesdays is that the day after Friday is Saturday and the day after Tuesday is Wednesday. Like it doesn't. Solange Pace. I hope I'm saying that right. Solange. Thank you for joining the group some time ago. You've been a very active participant so long. Thank you. Well, now you're in Miami, you say. You used to live in LA. Hi, love. Moved to Miami, land of the rednecks, of 2,000 last names and 300 teeth. Hey. Good morning, Cool Papa Jack. Udell Harris. Good morning, my brother. Clint Hughes. I like that last name on you, Clint. We must hold Biden and Kamala accountable to make good on this sort of program for blacks. We can hold Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to every account you want, and they'll accept the responsibility. That's the thing. If we tell Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that we want criminal justice reform, we want police reform, we want a national database for police misconduct, we want every police officer in the country to have this uniform way of reporting their racial profiling statistics, we can tell Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that we want every single cop in everywhere in America to wear body cameras, and they'll say yes to all of it. They totally will. But that does not mean that they're going to get more support. Because those things that we are asking for are expected. So even if we want something outrageous, I don't even know what black people can ask for that's even outrageous. Reparations. They'd even say yes to that. Well, yeah, sure, if you get us in office, we'll talk about it. They will say yes to everything. But everything that we as a nation will request of the Democratic ticket doesn't mean they're going to get more people to vote for them. Because I think that the support of the Democratic ticket is already locked in place. I don't know how you convince more people, especially if Donald Trump is rising in the polls as the coronavirus fears ease and after his convention. So I don't know what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would have to say. We'll pay off your mortgages. We'll buy you houses. We got to start bribing people, I guess. Alden Higgins, good morning, my brother. L.A. Thomas, good morning to you too. Lamont Williams, thank you, sir, for joining us. Good morning. Joel Bishop says good morning. Denise Jones, good morning. I agree. You have to pay attention. I watched between naps. It was hard to believe that was America. I mean, his children were up there, just a part of the circus. There is a particular kind of support, and it's not people that want equality and justice for everyone. They want America to continue marching on in the same fashion that founded the nation. That is the America that they are trying to preserve, and I hate to admit it, that they have history and tradition on their side. What we are trying to do is change the course of history and tradition in this nation, and that's hard. People don't want to change. Even if they're stuck in a situation that they absolutely despise and detest, it's the situation that they know. And I think that's where we are. There is this undercurrent of support for him and what he represents that we can't even explain. I can't even articulate it, but I know what it feels like because it's how I felt in 2012. I was voting for Barack Obama, not just because I believed he was the better president, because he had the better policy ideas, because I wanted him to get more political and congressional support for a fledgling Obamacare at the time, because I believed that Barack Obama's work wasn't done. I was voting for him to shut down and shut up all of his critics. So Obama's policy could have been weak for the second term. Obama could have had no policy plan, just like Donald Trump has right now, and he would not have lost me. You guys remember that? Because I know a lot of you feel the same way. In 2012, we were voting for Barack Obama because the Republicans said we weren't going to. We're like, I'll show them, and we won. In a landslide. That election was over 9 o'clock. All the votes weren't even counted yet in all the states. We didn't even need the rest of the Electoral College. That one was won. And the Republicans were just clutching their pearls like, oh my God, how did this happen? We didn't think that there was an enthusiasm for a second term of Barack Obama. That unique kind of mesmerizing magnetism that Barack Obama had. Trump has it too. We just discount it because we don't like him. And that's why I'm nervous. So if we don't have an almost like mechanized assembly line style level of efficiency when it comes to voting, especially voting early, particularly in Milwaukee, then we're not going to do it. We're not going to beat him. We're not going to beat him, and we can say goodbye to our American way of life, whatever that American way of life is. L.A. Thomas, all of those people not distanced. So yeah, when Trump gave his speech, it was a crowd of people just sitting next to each other in fold-up chairs on the White House lawn, just next to each other like nothing was going on. Not very many masks, and that worries me too because the faithful that watched that speech and were clinging to every word he said saw that crowd and like, oh, it's okay. Donald Trump is giving his speech just like normal. 1,000 or more people that are there, they're not socially distancing. Oh, it's just a hoax. There are some people that legitimately will think, well, if the president is not socially distancing his crowd, because those are the people that the president loves and they love him. And because he loves them and they love him right back, well, if they don't need a social distance, then it must be okay. This thing really is a hoax. Even though we know better, there are some people that don't. And as coronavirus fears ease, not the spread of COVID-19 itself, but as people's psychological response to it begins to subside, just like anything else. When there's a problem in this country, either we fix it or we get used to it. Either we fix it or we get used to it. Coronavirus, which I thought was going to be the ultimate sticking point and the end of his presidency, it's not. L.A. Thomas, I read your comment already. Good morning, Renee Lewis. Karen Ann, good morning, everyone. Willie Sykes, the immigrants didn't know why they were being used for props. Good morning from San Antonio. Boy, I wish we could win Texas. Willie, you think we'll ever get Texas to be a blue state? Well, if we have immigration reform, it would be the bluest of blue states because there are some people that are from south of the border, not just Mexico, but Central America, that will never, if they get the opportunity to vote, if they become American citizens, which clearly Donald Trump can do during his convention, they'll never vote for a Republican for the rest of their lives. Because there's a number of people in this country, some 10 or 11 million, that are living in fear that they're going to be separated from their families and deported. That fear has not gone away. And so if they have the opportunity to become citizens, it's almost like if Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico ever become states. They would be very blue states, and the people in Washington, D.C. D.C. is 1 million people, and it's a black city. It would be a total blue state. So in Puerto Rico. Just like there's some immigrants that are in this country that if they get the opportunity to vote, they will make sure that the policies that have them living in fear right now will never come to fruition. That is why there's such a strong effort to make sure D.C. doesn't get statehood, Puerto Rico doesn't get statehood, and 11 million people do not become American citizens. Because we know which way they're going to vote from that point in which they gain citizenship or statehood forward. Problem is we are stuck in this turning point in American history. And I thought the presidential election of 2020 was going to be, that's when we tip the scales and we start moving toward the America that we thought we could have, or we thought we would have by now, 57 years after the first March on Washington. That sinister element that wants to hang on to old traditions, they may squeak out another victory. Now, by the midterm elections of 2022, if we're all still here, you will begin to see things go back in the proper direction. But I don't know, unless there is a really expensive and concerted, mechanized assembly line style plan to get people to vote. If we're not getting something like 2,000 people to vote at the Midtown early voting location every single day starting on October 20th, I just don't know what will happen. Because I don't know what's going to happen on Election Day. I don't know what's going to happen with a number of people that are still going to mail their ballots in. I am noticing, even right now, some real inconsistency with my mail. They're doing a whole bunch of test runs on how they can screw the mail up and try and get away with it. Because remember, it might only be a couple of percentages, right? Or just a few ballots that happen to get lost in battleground states or in particular areas where you know the blue turnout is going to be high. Because it was only 77,000 votes in 3 states that gave Donald Trump his victory. Manipulating 77,000 votes, probably not that hard. Probably not. I mean, the post office is all-encompassing, bureaucracy, this organization that delivers things to every single part of the nation. And you can screw up the Postal Service's operations by 1% or 2% just by cutting their funding. I'm just nervous about this because I don't know how we coexist in a world where Trump supporters get to brag that they won again. That's going to be the worst part. Because we're not going to be able to handle that. Because they're not going to shut up about it. And Donald Trump is going to go further and further and further and further off the deep end. He's going to take this republic and the Constitution with him. He's also going to have 50 million people that are standing behind him while he destroys their country too. And that's going to be hard for a lot of us to watch, because at that point, there's not going to be any reasoning. Because they're going to say to all of us and everybody that voted for Democrats up and down the ballot that what we did and what we said wasn't good enough. It didn't work. It was rejected. There's still a number of people on the fence. There's a whole bunch of people that are still saying that they're not going to vote. And I don't know at this point in time if there's anything we can do to convince them. And even in our attempts to be rational and reasonable to convince people to vote for the for the salvation of the country, it's just going to turn into an argument, because how much patience do you even have with people nowadays? My patience is so short now. Wait, what's that comment? Wait, what's that? Block. What? I didn't like how you put a laughy emoji in my serious comment. Block. My block list. Remember the yellow pages? Remember? Oh, my block list is so bad. Willie Sykes, immigrants didn't know why they were being used for props. Oh, they totally did. They gathered a group of people that, for all we know, the day before could have been facing deportation. And Trump was like, no, I'll give you your citizenship, but you have to agree to get it on national television. They were like, hell yeah. Sure, I'll get my citizenship on national television. That doesn't mean they're going to vote for Donald Trump, because their citizenship means they're going to be able to register to vote and participate in the November election. There's no guarantee they're going to vote for Trump, but if you're dangling citizenship in front of somebody who has a job here or a business here, a life here, and a family here, hell yeah, they'll do it on national TV. Yep. They'll call them up like, yeah, you want your citizenship? Yes, I want my citizenship. Well, just be, you don't mind being on TV? Like, is that the only way I can get my citizenship? They're like, yeah, unfortunately, I'll do it. When he said that, I almost passed out too. L.A. Thomas, are you referring to when Trump said he's done more for black people since Abraham Lincoln? Like, that hurt. He doesn't say many things that hurt me. And it's not just his arrogance and his ego. It was that we always discount what black people have done for other black people. And for him to like do this celebration lap, this victory lap, that I've done more for blacks. Oh, and so we lose our credibility when he says stuff like that. And the crowd cheered like, oh yes, Donald Trump is the savior of the blacks. Alden Higgins said, OMG, that was BS. Mary Braun, I heard that too. It was hard to watch. So many lies. Truth doesn't matter anymore. And I hate to say that. It matters to us. This is one of the only places, and we get together Monday through Friday. Thank you guys for joining us, where we can discuss the truth. But we're the kids in the back of the class, right? Where everybody else is, they don't care what's going on. We're the ones we're the kids in the front of the class. Let me say that. We're paying attention. We're closer to the chalkboard. Depiction of protesters as criminals. You know, while that's unconstitutional and evil, if you take the ultimate patriotism, which is having grievance against your government and using the Constitution to express those grievances, meaning you get out in the streets, you protest, you block traffic, that forms a new republic. And I posted a link some days ago on how America was founded and created. For some, not everybody, because of rioting and looting. The American colonists were tired of this English tyranny, and they tore stuff up. They burned things down. They were in the streets. They were rioting. They were protesting. Then there was an intellectual component with the Federalist Papers and other things, and other pre-Revolutionary War propaganda. When you can take what we know can form and reform a republic, and you turn those people from patriots to evil monsters and rioters and looters, then you are inoculating the ability for protests to be effective. L.A. Thomas, I'm seriously contemplating moving out of the country if he is elected again. I mentally can't take it. So where are we going? Right? Like, I'm not saying that I'm going to move, but if y'all got ideas of where we all can go, maybe we need to form a colony. Like it'd have to be in Africa. And white people, you got to be okay with coming. Well, maybe, maybe not. But there has to be a place for this new brand of free-thinking patriots that are not indoctrinated by their fear of diversity. Nobody wants us though. An American passport nowadays is mud. Like, who wants us? Nobody want us. I did see a video some time ago where a mayor of a city in Ghana, I believe, was welcoming African Americans. Come on back home. We want you to come home back to Ghana. Africans in America, please come back to your home. It was so endearing. But do we just leave? What do we do with all our stuff? I got a lot of stuff in this house. What do I do with my stuff? I guess most of my important stuff, like my photos and all my other personal effects, are on my computer. So I just leave. I got to bring some clothes. I got to bring my t-shirts. I got a lot of t-shirts. But where do we go? Because it's going to be bad. It is. There's going to be, if you thought you saw a lot of rioting and destruction this summer, and you did, if Trump gets reelected, because really blue states and blue cities are going to vote in an even higher number for Trump, Joe Biden is going to win the popular vote. Because think about the people in Oregon and Portland. Think about the people in Washington State and Seattle, where everybody hates Trump. The governors, the mayors, the protest, they took over. They had that City Hall, the Chaz, they called it, the City Hall Autonomous Zone, where protesters after the George Floyd murder in Seattle were just like, no, we're gonna take all this. We're just gonna take the police station, we're gonna empty it out, and we're gonna block it off, and we're gonna have like a street festival in the area surrounding the police station. They're not gonna vote for Trump. And so you're gonna have this hyper turnout of blue states because California is gonna vote. It's almost gonna be like, remember in 2012? What was the year we had a whole bunch of marijuana legal? It must have been 2012, or the midterms of 2014. 2012, where you had a whole bunch of marijuana referendums on the ballot. You remember that? Or even in 2016, I think we had some. So no, in 2012, it was referendums on medicinal marijuana, right? And then 2016, you had referendums on recreational marijuana. What that did is it got people that don't like Democrats, don't like Republicans, but love weed to vote for those referenda. And in the process of doing so, they probably lent more votes to whoever the Democratic candidate was at the time. In 2016, it was Hillary. In 2012, it was Barack Obama. So those ballot referenda for marijuana legalization in 2012, 2014, because I think Colorado went recreational in 2014, increased Democratic turnout and individual Democratic voters in already blue states. And so what happens is you're going to see a corresponding rise in the popular vote. I mean, just having the recreational marijuana ballot referendum in California was like 3 million more votes. And just about 50 or 60 or 70% of those additional 3 million votes were people who were just going to vote for the weed. Also voted for Hillary Clinton. So Hillary Clinton's popular vote total could rise just in California because of a marijuana ballot measure. Now we don't have marijuana ballot measures anymore because Democrats who used to run campaigns on legalizing marijuana and everything that comes with it have forgotten about it. When was the last time you heard Tony Evers say a damn word about legalizing marijuana in Wisconsin? You haven't. He doesn't care. Democrats used to run and win elections up and down the ballot talking about marijuana. Just like, remember when Republicans used to say, remember 9/11? And then people would just fawn all over them and just vote all over the place. And I do have some information I posted in the group where there's like 2 or 3 dozen instances, and this is just what I found with a very simple search, of the people that are voting twice and committing voter frauds are Republicans. But when Republicans used to say, remember 9/11? And then people are like, yeah, I remember, and they just go vote because somebody was an anti-terrorist Republican candidate. Democrats had a similar motto, a similar theme with marijuana legalization, and it worked. A lot of people got elected. A lot of members of Congress got elected. Mayors, governors, council people, because of their stance on marijuana, because it is an issue. Really, it's an issue that resonates with everybody, but it really moves younger, unparty-affiliated voters to the polls. So just like the Democrats, You have a good thing and then you ruin it. You don't use it anymore. It works so well that we're going to stop using it. Because people's desire for legal marijuana, and also there's a criminal justice aspect with it as well. And I'm not over here telling everybody that this is the one issue that we need to be voting on. But now the ballot measure is Trump himself, right? So you needed this additional reason for unaffiliated people, unparty affiliated people to go out and vote. So if you're not a Democrat, you're not a Republican, you need this other issue, and marijuana was the issue in 2012, 2014, and 2016. Now that issue is Trump himself, but I just don't think it had the same kind of sticking power that marijuana did. Mary Braun, yes. I think that MF means Monday through Friday, or it means what the other MF means. Oh, at GE Healthcare, talking about your work schedule. Yes, Monday through Friday at GE Healthcare. We're on the front lines. Mary, you can't listen to this show at GE Healthcare. You'll get fired. Eileen Seeger, RNC. It was a well-produced convention. It looked good on TV. Trump is a master marketer. And if he and his enablers say stuff enough, people start believing it. That convention won back voters. It specifically spoke to the issues that flyover country were concerned about in his first term, and gave them permission to feel good about their vote in 2020. Biden is in trouble. I don't disagree with that. Because Joe Biden didn't mention Donald Trump by name at all during the convention. We knew who he was talking about, but he didn't take it to Trump directly. Biden got just pummeled. While they're trying to play him as some kind of a socialist, or like Joe Biden and the Democrat and a socialist, I knew at some point the Squad and AOC and Bernie Sanders and their, political talking points would come back to hurt Democrats as a whole, because they know that the thought and the talk of socialism, which clearly nobody even knows what socialism is, but if you say that Joe Biden is affiliated with socialists and Antifa and rioting and looting in the streets, and rioting and looting is a proxy for black people running around doing bad things to white people, because hasn't that always been the fear deep in the hearts and minds of white America, that black people, if we get some freedom, we're just going to start tearing up a bunch of white people property? And so they call the protesters rioters and looters, even though we know that they are patriots, because they are standing up to make sure that America can be a just country with equality for everybody. They're running away with the rhetoric. Good morning, Justin. Justin for a minute says, I'm scared. After last night, it just feels so much like 2016 deja vu. Progressives on NBC scoffing, saying no one could possibly support this, pointing to polls. All of us here in the heart of it, hearing the fired up, angry white people, know they're all voting. Oh yeah, they are. If you go deep in Republican country, and you don't have to go very far from Milwaukee to be deep in the heart of Republican country, it's not even a question of who they're going to vote for. It's when do the polls open. It's not even a debate. If you travel outside of the city of Milwaukee go north, northwest, or even south to an extent, but stop before you get to Kenosha, all you see are Trump signs. Now, I know that yard signs don't vote. We've always, held on to that, those of us that have worked in political campaigns, because you think the candidate that has the most yard signs has the most support. In this case, I believe, yes. People are willing to, they don't just have yard signs like the little ones, the little 3 foot by 2 foot little yard signs. They've got Trump billboards all throughout these smaller towns. And no, their numbers are not as substantial population-wise as here in Milwaukee. But if you have, a county that has, one of these conservative counties that has 4,500 registered voters, 4,400 of those votes are going to be counted for the Republican. It's going to be almost this homogeneous support for Donald Trump. And you add up all of those small towns, and they're 85%, 87%, 82%, 90%, 96%, 96%, 96% for Trump, for Trump, for Trump, for Trump. Then they start chipping away at the advantage that Milwaukee could give Biden and Kamala Harris. So we're going to have to use something that I know that the right is not fond of. We're going to have to use math and science to mechanize a way of getting people to turn out so we can overcome that 90+% that some of those conservative counties and cities and townships are going to be voting for Donald Trump, because we are in trouble. Now, I can't worry about what they're doing in Iowa. I don't know what they're doing in Minnesota. I don't know what they're doing in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, but they have to be thinking along the same lines, and we've got to run the score up early. And one way we can do that is with early voting. Alden Higgins says, I'm actually afraid that he will win. It's sad that this is where we are in this country. Didn't we think that it could never happen? In a country, let me give you something here, where anything is possible. If you happen to like some things about America, it's that some of those stories, and I don't want to overinflate them because it's still hard to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but anything is possible in this country. And we've always had that subconsciously, right? That you can kind of do anything. There are people that get lucky, that get opportunities they otherwise would not have had anywhere else. But if anything is possible for the optimistic, then anything is possible for the pessimistic. It can be the best of times and the worst of times in a country where anything is possible, because justice and the way it's implemented in this country, there's two systems of it. So there's two ways to look at the Constitution. There's two ways to look at what protesting actually is. There's two ways to look at what an American revolution actually is. And because we have this dual interpretation, right? People that are out there in the streets that are protesting for justice, who are real, true patriots that want to reform the republic, which they really are, or they can be seen as violent criminals that can be rounded up off of the streets, even though they are doing their patriotic duty to say that they have a grievance against their government. You can turn them into criminals. You can have the Second Amendment and your right to bear arms against a tyrannical government. Then you can use the Second Amendment to support a tyrannical government. These militias that are out there that say that they're patriots and they're freedom fighters and they want to protect property, they are fighting on behalf of the Confederacy. They are fighting on behalf of Trump and Trumpism. They are the tyrants. So because we have this anything is possible theme in our country, literally anything is possible. When there's a dual interpretation of what justice is. I mean, you got this white man, 17 years old, Kyle Rittenhouse, who murders two people, seriously injures a third, and walks right past law enforcement with the murder weapon slung around his shoulders, just walking with his hands up. Then you have a black man who is running away from the police and gets shot in the back. It is that duplicity right there, combined with the fact that anything is possible in this country, that allows for Donald Trump to get reelected. Willie Sykes says yes. Tammy Reed, good morning, Tammy. Miss coming in daily, but work on top of virtual school has me suddenly busy. That's okay, Tammy. We'll rebroadcast the program here in the forum for you. Monica Emma, I don't see it, Sherwin. I think it's all an illusion manufactured by their propaganda. Keep thinking that. I thought Trumpism was an illusion too. I thought it was a joke. I thought there's no way anyone could take this seriously. Now people are not only taking him seriously, they are taking up arms and they are defending him with their weapons and they're killing people. We can no longer be dismissive because we don't like it. Where's it going to get us? Another 4 years. And we've just totally forgot about the Supreme Court. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is probably on life support. I'm just assuming that she is. Like, seriously. I mean, I'm not trying to be, funny about it, but her heart needs to continue to beat, and we're going to fail her. We're going to fail her. L. Cocroft, good morning, Sherwin Hughes. All don't forget to watch the tape, the March for Action live coverage on PBS NewsHour, live video on Facebook, also broadcast on BET and C-SPAN at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I believe Nitty and Lowe will be guest speakers. Oh, really? I got to talk about that. Our marchers from Milwaukee making it to Washington, D.C. God bless them. They got shot at. Where's the story? And right here. We're coming in hot. Milwaukee marchers faced gunfire, found love on their 750-mile walk to D.C. after enduring blistered feet arrests, harassment, and a spray of gunfire over the course of weeks. Dozens of people marching 750 miles to protest police brutality are hours away from their final destination, the nation's capital, for the anniversary of the March on Washington. Quote, "We're coming in hot. We'll be there," said Tory Lowe, a Milwaukee-based victims advocate, on Thursday morning from his hotel room in Maryland, about 60 miles outside of D.C. Right now, for this time, in this moment, in this country, this walk represents a civil rights march of historic importance, and I agree with you, Tory. When Lowe and about 20 other men, women, and children first left Milwaukee on August 4th, they plan to walk about 30 miles a day through August 28th, when thousands of people are expected to attend the Get Your Knee Off Our Necks commitment March on Washington. Now their demonstration has become even more necessary, Lowe says. Just miles from Milwaukee last weekend, police in Kenosha, Wisconsin, shot 29-year-old Jacob Blake in the back several times, leaving the father of three paralyzed from the waist down, according to lawyers for his family. The shooting ignited several nights of looting, violence, and protests in Kenosha and other cities across the country. The most recent incidents of unrest this summer amid a nationwide movement for racial justice. This march was meant to happen because look at what's happening in the state of Wisconsin, Lowe said. This is why we're marching. It brings validation to the fact of why we ever started this march in the first place. We are thankful for them and their sacrifices. 30 miles a day for... Guys, I don't want to drive 750 miles. And I'm just being honest. I am glad that they made it. I'm glad that they have the kind of intestinal fortitude to walk through Ohio and Indiana and Pennsylvania. And what it did, reminiscent of the previous generation's civil rights movement, you remain peaceful, you remain vigilant, and the violence comes from the oppressor. The violence comes from those who are racist. The violence are those who all of a sudden out of thin air create new 21st century sundown towns. Those are the violent ones. Those that oppose justice is violent. Racism is violence. And they were shot at. And thank God nobody was killed. But this is where we are in America, and it seems that the people that want a better way very well may fall short unless we implement a plan right now at this moment. And I don't know if we can. And the coronavirus and those that take it seriously, it stifles us because we can't be out there in the streets and organizing like Democrats usually do. We need more interaction with one another. We need groups. We need events. We need rallies. We need parties. We need a sense of celebration behind our agenda. Republicans don't. They don't need all of that. We do. We have to get people enthused and engaged, excited. Republicans don't need that because they are fighting for a particular way of life that is tradition for them. They don't need enthusiasm. They can look at just pictures on their wall and look at their family tree. That is what they are fighting for. That is what they are voting for. We are voting for something that has never even existed in this country, or it exists in very small spurts. What we are doing is much more difficult. That is why the type of organizing that we need as Democrats has been stifled by the virus. What do we got for comments? I'll let you guys talk amongst yourselves. Karen Ann, we all need a plan B. Yeah, we have one, but I don't like it. So the plan B is, so we're not, where are we going to move to? Canada always seems to be the default because it's reasonably close, but I can't move where it's colder. Can't move north of Wisconsin. People never even should have settled north of Tennessee because it's I can't go colder. I don't know what other country we could go to. Like who on the other side of we can't go to Russia. Well, Trump supporters can. Do we form our own colony in Milwaukee? Like how? Maybe we just make Milwaukee a sovereign state. I don't know what we're gonna do, but it's gonna be ugly because just on his inauguration in 2017, there was rioting. He hadn't even done anything yet. Donald Trump had not yet shown how evil and sinister he could be and how cruel his agenda was going to be when he was inaugurated. I mean, he started with lies. My inauguration crowd there was like 14 people there. It was the biggest crowd in history. I knew we were in for it then when he was taking an obvious fact and turning it around into something different. The picture showed there's a lot of empty space. In fact, there were so few people at Donald Trump's inauguration that like the groundskeepers at the Washington Mall, they were just doing regular maintenance and just cutting the grass because there was so much space. But I had no idea it would get this bad. And I had no idea that we'd still be having the same arguments about the abilities of Joe Biden, just like we had the arguments about the abilities of Hillary Clinton. I didn't think we'd have those same arguments because it seems that we have not learned. Because the tradition of America to be a racist country is stronger than the ability to change it. Not stronger than the will to change it, because I think in all of our hearts, we definitely want to see this done right. We want to see a better country. But that tradition is it's ironclad, right? So it's almost like when you protest against racism, you're un-American, right? Whenever you use what the Constitution allows to form a new republic, then that is what becomes un-American. You almost have to accept this country for what it is, and if you don't like it, what do they say? You can go somewhere else. Problem is, nobody else will take us. I don't know where to go. We just get a bunch of houseboats and live on Lake Michigan? I don't know. I've heard Morocco is easy sort of to move to. No idea if that's true. We'd have to learn how to speak Arabic. I'm not opposed to Africa. But are they going to want us? I wouldn't want us. If I'm another country that got our coronavirus, like New Zealand, New Zealand and Vietnam. So New Zealand totally opened their country back up. They had, I don't know how long, with no coronavirus deaths at all. Like they mitigated the coronavirus in a really short period of time. Also, it's a much smaller nation. But New Zealand also banned assault weapons. Like just got rid of all of them. So they did some things that we can't do. But in Vietnam, 97 million people, not a single coronavirus death. And that might be old data, but that was in the height of when our cases were peaking the first time. There were no reported deaths in Vietnam from the coronavirus because they did it right. And if you're one of those countries that has got your economy back and things are getting back to normal slowly but surely, you don't have anybody on ventilators, you don't have anybody in the hospital from the coronavirus, you don't want Americans in your country. Because if we were the country that did it right, let's say America still had Democratic leadership. We had Hillary Clinton and all the people she would have appointed to the CDC, and FEMA would be operating like it's supposed to be operating. Let's say we did the right thing, implemented a mask mandate in February, and we mitigated the coronavirus and our economy was good and blacks were getting jobs like Donald Trump says. Imagine if that happened. We wouldn't want somebody from a country with the worst coronavirus cases in the world to come here. We would real quickly turn anti-immigrant, even though you say that you wouldn't be anti-immigrant. Yes, you would. If you found out Mexico was leading the world in coronavirus cases, let's say Mexico had 10 million coronavirus deaths. You'd be like, well, are we going to build the wall? Because I don't want the Mexican virus to come here. So us saying that we should go somewhere else, nobody would want an American. And plus, if they'd like graffiti our houses. If there's an American colony in Morocco or in New Zealand or wherever we're all going to move to, we would be the second-class citizens. You would all be treated like black people. Americans are now the world's black people. Mark Superfly Chambers says that was 2018. I don't know what we're referring to. I'm a little bit late with the comments, guys. That was 20 minutes ago. Number 45 mentioned Biden 41 times. Yeah, I saw that. He's got this obsession with Joe Biden. He does. And what Biden didn't, and I'm sure Joe Biden is waking up every single morning talking to Jill and just, expressing his frustration. Because I can't imagine the frustration that Joe Biden must be, going through to see him still essentially even in far too many polls, or Donald Trump within the margin of error, he doesn't have that same kind of public obsession with Trump. Like every time you hear Joe Biden, he's talking about a better America, a smarter, a brighter, a more efficient America that pays attention to people that are fighting and crusading for justice, fairness, and equality. That's Joe Biden's message, but it might be falling on deaf ears. Maybe the debates is where we can get a little saving grace. Maybe if Donald Trump, if his weaknesses are exposed, because I was one of those people that said, you know what, Joe Biden doesn't need to debate Donald Trump. Trump is just, let him be Trump and let Trump say a bunch of stupid stuff. Nah, we got to expose some weaknesses in Donald Trump because he looks like a supreme leader, because what he had is just these brainless, mindless robot zombies promoting him and talking about how he has created the greatest economy in American history, which is categorically false. Trump doesn't, his weaknesses we would say is his racism, but to them it's his strength. So there needs to be a way in which this strong man persona that he has exemplified, there's holes poked in that armor. He needs to be made to look weak. And I don't know if Joe Biden can do it. I would rather, call me crazy, which you already do. I want Kamala Harris to debate Donald Trump. I want her to be a designated hitter. Right? So what'll happen is they'll have the little debate. I think there's 3 of them, maybe 4 of them scheduled. And then the moderators will be there, Chuck Todd, Rachel Maddow. I don't know who's going to moderate them. Hi, we would like to welcome you to the 2020 presidential debate. This will be the first of 4 installments of presidential debates for a contest that will be decided on November 3rd. First, like it's a prize, right? We'd like to introduce the man from Florida / New York, Russia, Donald J. Trump. And then Trump comes out, they introduce him. Next, we'd like to introduce the 44th Vice President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden. And then Biden don't walk out. Kamala walks out to some Wu-Tang Clan playing in the background. And she just walks. Just looking at Trump's ass. That would shake him. Can we do that? I mean, it's not illegal. If you guys saw the hearings of when Kamala Harris was challenging a number of Donald Trump appointees, when she went after, I think Jeff Sessions was one, William Barr was another, Kavanaugh, the way she's a prosecutor. We need Trump to be prosecuted during the debates, and Joe Biden is not going to do that. He doesn't have the ability to do that. Trump needs to be prosecuted, because then you have someone who is coming from a prosecutorial background that's going to put Trump on the stand. Trump needs to be on the stand during the debate, and Joe Biden can't put him on the stand. Joe Biden is going to pretend that America is going to get back to normal, regular stuff, and we're all going to love each other, which we can do, but Joe Biden is not, he's not the Abraham Lincoln that can save the Union. He isn't that figure. God bless him. We need him to win, but he is not that kind of personality. Obama was. Obama had that charisma. If we can show Donald Trump being prosecuted, and then the strong man is made to look weak, and the armor that he has of public support from Fox News and conservatives and all those other bootlickers, if they see Trump as weak, then they're going to change their minds. Now, they're not going to vote for Joe Biden. No, hell no, they're not going to vote for no liberal, democratic, socialist Joe Biden. They won't do that, but they'll stay home. We got to figure out a way to suppress indoctrinated Republicans so that the man that they think is Superman, that's God, that's their savior, is made to look weak. He needs to be embarrassed. And right now, we don't have the formula. But if Kamala Harris debates Donald Trump, and just how shook he would be when that black woman is standing next to him on the podium, he would just, he'd be looking around for help. Ain't nobody coming to help you, Donald. Do I need to start what's them things? A change.org petition to get Kamala Harris to stand in for Joe Biden during the debate, because Trump needs to be prosecuted by a prosecutor. Put him on the stand. Kamala Harris does that really, really well. And that is what we need to show, not just the nation, but the world, that when Donald Trump is put against a blisteringly witty and intelligent black woman, he'll crumble, because he won't have anything to rebut what Kamala Harris is going to say. It's almost like, that scene in 8 Mile? when B Rabbit starts off with, all of his faults that he thinks the other rapper is going to use against him. And then the other rapper was just like, I don't know what to say. That would be great, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Let's see. Tammy Reed says, Miss Denise, did you count? No, they said the 41 times that Donald Trump mentioned Joe Biden. There was a news report that said how many times he mentioned him. Kamala came out with a blistering speech before Trump's acceptance speech, which I thought was very masterful. You know what, Alden? I don't know if enough people heard that. We need Kamala on the big stage, because Kamala debating Mike Pence is going to be a snooze fest. That wouldn't even be fun watching. That's just like the best team in football playing the worst team in football. It's going to be a total blowout. That won't move voters, because those are the second tiers. Those are what a potential 2024 matchup will be. Kamala Harris debating Mike Pence. That isn't going to move people to vote for Joe Biden, I don't think. Nobody makes their mind up on a vice presidential debate. But Kamala will be able to promote herself as ready to be president, because she will be one heartbeat away from the presidency if Joe Biden wins. Right now, we got to get Joe Biden across the finish line. And I don't know if Joe Biden himself can get Joe Biden across the finish line. I think Obama only speaks to the faithful, because if we had big rallies and huge events and Obama was the headliner and Michelle Obama was there, that's different, because we get 60, 70,000 people in Madison. We get 40 or 50,000 people to come out to one of those events in Milwaukee, but we're not going to have those. Remember, Democrats need energy. We got to fire people up and get them ready to go. Republicans don't need that. They're voting as a matter of allegiance to separatism and racism and injustice. So that doesn't need a rally. That just needs enough gas in the car to get to the polling location. Tammy Red, deep in the heart of Trump country, is a good 5 minutes from me at most. You be careful out there, Tammy. Be careful now. L.A. Thomas, unless they all get COVID since they don't believe it exists. A lot of people have gotten COVID, but I think are the Trumpers immune to it? Because, listen, they're the ones, they haven't cared from the beginning. They were going and marching and protesting with guns and protesting on the governor's offices about opening up the state and anti-mask protests, and they seem to be getting stronger. They eat COVID for breakfast, and they're just, COVID. Denise Jones, if he wins, we can take over a land and claim independence and make our own country, create laws, borders, etc. We'd go to war with each other. Oh, we would. We'd totally. Black people would still be segregated. We wouldn't have a military. We wouldn't have a currency. We wouldn't have an economic system. We would have to borrow and steal so much from the United States. We couldn't even figure out what our Constitution would want to be, because if we did that and all the like-minded people formed a new country, us black people would want to frame the Constitution to protect ourselves from the racism that I know still exists in white America, even if it's not overt, and that would be a problem. L. Cocroft, our speakers who are speaking right now in Washington, D.C., are giving me hope. We are just as good or better. Don't be swayed by the RNC propaganda. Trump Jr. was literally high on Monday. Please tune in to the March for Action today. I'm impressed, and I think you will be too. I know we will be. It's going to give us a lot of hope, but I think that march for us and the speakers and just the symbolism of the 57th anniversary of that march is only going to speak to the faithful, because they only use, so those on the right who like to claim Dr. King as one of their own, saying he's a Republican, he's a conservative, the only part of Dr. King that they're concerned with is the peaceful protest part, because they use that to shut us up. Whenever we get angry, whenever we show emotion, they say, Dr. King wasn't like that. Other than that, they don't care about Dr. King. And so that means that I don't believe that anyone who is a Trump lover is going to be inspired by the March on Washington. I don't care if there's 3 million people there. And if all the speeches are pitch perfect and really strike the proper tone of where we are in this country, I think it's just going to be the faithful. The people that already would be tuned into that, right? You are right about them 750 miles. Big props to Tory and Nitty and everybody else that went with him, because I would have got so I don't know where'd they start from. Did they start from downtown? Did they walk on the freeway? I don't know where did they start their route? And so it was such a monumental undertaking, and just the amount of courage, because again, I don't want to drive 750 miles. In fact, if it's more than a 3-hour drive, I'm gonna see what the flights are. And what do you want me to do? But if old Sherwin was like, yeah, I'm gonna march to Washington, D.C. with y'all, we'd still be in downtown Milwaukee or wherever the march would have started from. I'm tired. If I go this way, I could be at home. I just go lay down. I wouldn't have got out of the city. Lena C. Taylor, good morning, Senator. What if we don't get that? Oh, I wish I knew what you're referring to 16 minutes ago. L.A. Thomas, Canada is beautiful, though. L.A. Thomas, Canada is cold. We can't all go to Canada. You think Canada wants us? They don't look at our passport and be like, no, American, eh? No, I don't think we can let you in, but have a nice day. Crystal Farinelli, Canada is just as racist. Let's buy a large island. I shouldn't even have brought this up because now y'all going to... You know how people talk like when they're playing the lottery and they think they're going to win, like what they're going to do with all the money? What are we all going to do if Trump wins? Let's buy an island. We won't even contribute to Democratic campaigns and candidates. We ain't buying no island. I can't give y'all to give $5 to Democratic candidates. But now, let me not be pessimistic. Okay, if you guys want to put together, I got $20 on the island. But black people need to be like framers of the Constitution because a lot of us need to escape for our lives. Some white people, especially the well-to-do white folks that just don't like, conservative politics, it'll be like a vacation for them. Oh my God, did you hear the Negroes are going to frame a constitution, a Negro island? Oh my God, Blacklandia? We'll call it Wakanda. Monica Emma, I'm not being dismissive. I'm well aware there are Trump supporters out there, but what I don't see is that he's gaining more supporters between his racist and fascist agenda and COVID-19. I think he's losing supporters. As coronavirus fears ease and Donald Trump gets a bump in the polls after his convention, which Joe Biden did not, that means that momentum is shifting toward Trump. What we have to consider is the people that just didn't vote. There was a lot of people that just didn't vote for president in 2016. They voted down ballot. They voted for their local elected officials because they like them, or they voted for Congress because they like their member of Congress, but didn't vote for president. Has Joe Biden done enough and proved his case, and have the Democrats proved their case with their convention that was only watched by Democrats? Undecided non-voters, like never registered voters, them too. Have the Democrats made the case to encourage those folks? Because we get, our information is skewed because we only talk to people that think like us, because we can't talk to people that think differently because it turns into an argument. So we're only getting, at least me, because you know what happens when I try and engage with Trump people? They put my address on the internet. They put my address on a Facebook page. And people were sending, I got so much hate. Oh, the N-word, every other message I got. So there's clearly no compromising. And so to save my own mental health, I cannot engage nor talk to or have any kind of reasonable debate with those people because they threaten me and they threaten my family because I presented facts about Kyle Rittenhouse. And they put my address on the internet. It's like, oh, look at this. Y'all trying to... Ghana has already said they would give us land. Well, Senator Lena Taylor, are you going to prepare the convoy to Ghana? We got to take an airplane, right? I'm not taking a boat across the Atlantic. Mary Braun, there are 1,500 expats American in Medellin, Colombia. I was there last year. It's gorgeous and affordable. Now I could even go. You know what? We could probably go to Mexico. We could Central America, Mexico, South America, because whatever little money you have now, and I don't know how much money y'all got, it goes further in Central American countries and in South America. Because then we can drive, because it's all connected. We could drive. Imagine a caravan of 37 million cars just leaving America. We could drive to, and some of y'all would stop in Mexico. Well, of course we'd stop along the way. Get out in the street and salsa dance. We're the Americans forming our new colony because we hate Donald Trump. We might be seen as heroes and patriots, or they may shoot at us. I don't know yet. There's an idea, because we can just drive. Denise Jones, you funny. Tammy Reed, you said Wu-Tang. Oh yeah, when Kamala Harris comes out to debate Donald Trump instead of Joe Biden. I'm not opposed to that. Don't let me forget about that idea, because I think we can make progress on that. Monica Emma, there is no reason why Kamala Harris can't debate him. Trump has changed everything about the way we do things in this country. So why can't we change up the debates? I think we totally can. Because Kamala could be like, bitch, what? What you gonna do? I guess she probably shouldn't say that, but I would think it's funny. Lena C. Taylor, what if we don't get an engaged campaign? What does that look like to you? What if we don't get an engaged campaign? What does that look like to you? It looks like a Donald Trump reelection. It looks like him winning Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania outright, not in the margins. Donald Trump, he's not going to win the popular vote. I don't think so. Because blue states that are firmly blue are probably going to increase their number. Because of what happened in places like Seattle and in Portland, there are some young people that I assure you, I promise to God, they didn't vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016, but because of Donald Trump sending federal troops to those cities and snatching people off the streets, they created more voters in states that are already blue, and so the popular vote will rise. But I'm just concerned about where the territory that Donald Trump won in 2016 has now become fertile ground for Trumpism because of what happened in Kenosha. And the way people are putting together GoFundMe accounts and giving sympathy and support to a 17-year-old murderer from Illinois. That happened in Wisconsin. And the lawlessness and the violence and the rioting and the looting, here it is in Wisconsin. That may galvanize more Trump supporters. I hate to think. I really hate to think. Crystal Farinelli, same, except it wasn't my address. It was my criminal record. Ooh. On a WISN post, like shaking my head, they're so angry and mean. Tom Wiesel, South Africa looks interesting. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to check out the March on Washington. I'd imagine the program has already started. I apologize for going over because I know that we all want to pay attention to that 57th anniversary of that historic march. We will continue these conversations in the Forum Facebook group. You guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to everybody on Monday.